And we're live. Hello and a very good afternoon and welcome to the Midday Show. This is Neil Long. What an absolutely beautiful day today. It is glorious. So we're just going to wait for the numbers to go up and for you good folks to start tuning in. And then hopefully we'll have a really interactive show. Unfortunately, our guest can't be with us today. She's had to dash off on a personal matter. Lovely lady called Anita Wisdom. We will be getting her back on the show at some point really, really soon. Because I was really looking forward to that interview actually, because it was going to be New Age hocus pocus or amazing breakthrough. And I know what side of the fence I was falling, whether the believing Mulder or skeptical Scully, but we'll leave that for next time. I'll let you work that out. Anyway, good afternoon. God, that's 1 minute gone already. Only another 59 of those to go. I'd like this show to be as interactive as possible today. I really would like everybody who's tuned in, yes, you, Cheeky Chops, yes, you, no, not that one over there, you, to get involved with the show today. So please do. I thought we could go back to doing some NLP today because I don't have a guest. So I thought we'd have a little look at this Paul McKenna book, Success for Life, which I've owned for a while now, and I've done some of the exercises, but I need to do all of the exercises. But that's okay. That's okay. So I'm not sure where we're going to start on this, but there's so much good stuff in here. So much good stuff. Maybe we could take a vote and we could pick a category, and we can explore that category today if it's something you feel you'd like to get more involved with and work on. Hello, Robert Van Buren. Hello to you, and thank you very much for tuning in. Good to have you tuned in. So look at the categories in this book today. Success for Life, Paul McKenna. Definitely recommend it. Very clever, bit of neurolinguistic programming, and 7 categories in it: self-belief, clarity, determination, connection, creativity, energy and health, and happiness. Any of those in particular you'd like to work on today or would like me to talk about today? I would definitely. No, I'm not going to hypnotize you. It's actually against the law for me to, not that I'm trained in hypnotherapy for a start, but even if I were, hypnotizing people on live TV or live anything is actually is actually against the law. So no, Robert, I'm not going to be hypnotizing you. There's also a lot of myths about hypnosis as well. I think a lot of people don't understand it and they're kind of scared of it. But once you sort of understand it from a sciencey perspective, it's not really scary at all. It's just because we go into trance every day. But maybe we realize it, maybe we don't. But if you've ever driven somewhere and then arrived at your destination and not knowing how you got there, you don't remember the journey, but clearly you got there safely. So obviously everything's fine, but you don't remember what you did. That's called highway hypnosis. That's a kind of trance. It's just a slightly different focus of attention and a relaxed state of being or a relaxed state of mind, which makes you more open to suggestion, which may be better suggestions than the story that we go around telling ourselves every day about ourselves and the world. That's the purpose of hypnosis in a nutshell. So what would you like to talk about today, dear people? I can see the numbers going up. So please say hi. Don't be shy. Please let me know. I'd love to know who's watching. So please let me know who's there, and then I can talk to you much more personally. And I'd like you to choose maybe one of these categories that we can explore today. I'll give you the categories again. They are self-belief, clarity, determination, connection, creativity, energy and health, and happiness. I mean, who wouldn't want all of those? Who would not want all of those? And in this book, there's a ton of techniques that correlate with all these categories. So I guess if you go through and do the work, you'll be a completely different person. But I won't really call it work. It's kind of more like growing into who you are. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, so Robert, for everyone, I'm not going to hypnotize you. I'll talk about the guest that we were going to have on a bit. Apparently there's this new technology and you wear it as a patch. Now this might sound a bit of a push, but if you look at certain scientific ways of taking pictures of us, if you like, you can see that we're ultimately made of molecules and light. I know that sounds a bit weird, in fact very weird, but if you think about it, that's what we are. And this is about healing yourself with your own light. And apparently it's taken 10 years to develop this. And of course, now a while ago, I'd have thought that's just new age nonsense. But something that's been 10 years in development, plus the lady that told me about it, I trust, plus that I do know that we're kind of made of, not kind of, we are made of light and energy. That's like, oh, that's a bit different. Okay, fair enough. So I'm really definitely going to try and get this lady back on as soon as we possibly can. Now, the only person that's commented thus far is Robert Van Buren, which is lovely, Robert, but I'd like to hear from some of the rest of you. Numbers are going up, so please pop some comments on the screen so I know who's listening. And if you would like to choose one of those categories, I would definitely be happy to explore. And if we don't get any suggestions, I will just sit here quietly. No, I won't. We'll start at the beginning. So, but do comment, please. Let's make today's show as interactive as we possibly can. Let's really, or maybe one of you watching would like to come on and we can have a chat about some stuff. We could do some NLP, or we can talk about all kinds of stuff. It's the midday show. We can talk about mental health. We can talk about well-being, or we can talk about pretty much anything, unless it's divisive or political. In which case, I want to put you on. Elizabeth Green, good morning to you. How is New York today? New York. All good, Elizabeth? Very good to have you tuned in. It's 7:06 in New York, isn't it? So I know you get up early to listen to this show. You poor misguided woman. No, I'm just joking. It's lovely to have you along. Would you like to pick one of those categories? Oh, overcast this morning. We've got lovely weather here in the UK, actually. It's about blooming time. It's been absolutely vile recently. Yesterday, pouring down the rain, but today, actually, really, really nice and warm as well. They say it's going to be hotter than the Costas, and I do love a Costa. I don't mean Costa coffee. I mean like Costa Dells and all that sort of wonderful stuff. So I don't know if you just joined us, Elizabeth. We're discussing this book again today, Successful Life, Paul McKenna. And I wondered if you or one of our other lovely listeners or watchers may like, and hi to you if you're watching on replay, by the way. Obviously you can't comment, but there'll be some good content here, so worth keep watching. Self-belief, clarity, determination, connection, creativity, energy and health, and happiness. Not all, and it's about all of them, not just one or two of them. So there we go. That's Paul McKenna, Successful Life, the new book, The Secret to Achieving Your True Potential. And comes from years and years of work. I mean, as Russ has said many times, we used to work with Paul McKenna. He used to be a radio presenter. He did actually do some shows at Radio Jackie, where I work now, in the very, very early years. And then he kind of went into the world of hypnotherapy and stage hypnosis and all that sort of stuff. And then into the world of personal development. He's just become a worldwide phenomenon, worldwide name, and done absolutely brilliantly. So congratulations to him. And we can all benefit from that. So I would like someone watching to pick one of those categories. Okay, I can stick them on the screen if you want. Take me a moment because I do all my own production. You can pick from any of these. Let's have a quick look. There we go. That's what we want. Where's my producer today? Oh, wait a minute. I'm my producer. So let's pop these on the screen. You can choose from one of these first three if you wish. And that's these. Self-belief, clarity, determination. Because these are what we call states in NLP, states of being. Okay, it's not so much about what you're doing, although what you're doing will unfold organically from that. It's more about what you're being while you're doing it. Right? And that's quite an important nuance and understanding. If you are doing something in a state of, let's say, self-belief, or doing something not in a state of self-belief, what's going to have the better outcome? So surely it will be better to find the good feeling, or the resourceful, as they would call it in an NLP, state. In other words, how you think and feel in that moment, and then come from that place, rather than doing things to try and get to that place. Does that make sense? Is it possible to do it that way around? We're not taught that. We're taught action, nose to the grindstone, hard work, and then, maybe you'll get there. Get where? Because we're all trying to get somewhere of what we're doing. It could be one of these categories as well. Just pop these in. It's lovely when it won't type when I want it to. Maybe connection and creativity, or the final two. These are all big ones too. I keep pressing Z by mistake. Adding some weird command to the computer, and it's going to do strange things. Energy and health and happiness. So pick one. One of you fine folks watching, pick one of these and we'll do a bit of a deep dive into it on this Wednesday edition of the Midday Show. Pick one. Which one would you like? Self-belief. Which would you like? Clarity, determination, connection, creativity, energy and health, happiness. Which one of those do you fancy? Let me know. Or we can just start with one and we can do maybe do the first exercise in the book. Now, I take no credit for any of this work. I'm just a big fan of the man, so it's a pleasure to review the book. You can buy it on Amazon. Paul McKenna, Success for Life. It comes with downloads as well, because there's plenty of exercises in there, but there's downloads which you can listen to, which will reinforce the exercises and sort of bury them deeper into your neurology, if you like. So it becomes more of a permanent state of being rather than something that you just might flash in or out of occasionally, if the stars are aligned, kind of thing, depending on the fortunes of the day or depending on how busy or distracted you are. That's not what we want. Right, I'm a bit short on comments today. Normally you're quite chatty. We've got plenty of people listening. Come on, you lot. Let's have some blinking comments. First from Robert Van Buren and Elizabeth has only said 2 words today, which are morning and overcast. Come on, you're normally quite chatty, Elizabeth. Give me something to work with today. Another one's come in. Oh, no, it hasn't. Overcast. Okay, we know it's overcast in New York because you told us. Please do interact with me. Pick one of those categories. I'll put them up on the screen just once more for you, and we do a deep dive into it. Self-belief, clarity, determination, connection, creativity, energy and health, or happiness. Okay, so let's start. Let's start with a little bit of self-belief, shall we? And we'll just review the book for the rest of the show today. Now, I want you to bear in mind that you have a conscious, or we, I say you, all of us have a conscious and an unconscious mind. And you can tell this when people say things like, I know it just doesn't make any sense, but I feel this way. Hello.
Well, you know what? I'm working away here. I've just got back from the vet. And I love your subjects. And I wanted to put in my 10 cents worth, if that's all right with you on your show.
Wouldn't you be better off going to the doctor? Isn't the vet for animals? Boom.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, the comedy stylings of...
How is your mini schnauzer? Is she okay?
Well, I'm sorry, I don't want to divert away from what you're doing, Longie.
No, you're not. You're welcome.
Thank you, fella.
Well, it's your radio station.
She's far from well. I have an 11 o'clock appointment at the vet's. I get down to the vet's. Oh, we've been trying to get you. Well, phone isn't wrong, right? And the phone's linked to my Fitbit, so it always will, vibrate and everything. I said, well, I'm not 14. I'm not glued to my phone. If you, be a grown-up, phone me. We've got an emergency. I said, well, this is an emergency. My dog's really not well. Anyway, so I sit like a muppet for 40 minutes. Then they come out. No, we've got another. I said, oh, Jesus. So I'm going back tonight at 6:15. So I have wasted much of my morning. I wanted to, anyway, and that's enough about Avenue. Bless you for asking. I wanted to talk with you about self-belief.
Okay.
But it's your show. I'm coming on as a punter. I'm coming on as a guest.
No, let's discuss.
And I was listening and I was thinking it was so, I was so engrossed in what you were saying. I thought, no, I gotta.
Well, no, let's do it. Let's do it live on air. Let's do it. Let's discuss it. It's really useful for me to have someone to bounce off. So I'm really glad you're here.
Oh, well, bless you. Here's the thing. A lot of my friends are completely normal people, and some of them are ridiculously successful. I mean, super successful. You look at their CV and you go, geez, how come you even talking to me? And they all, without exception, suffer from imposter syndrome. All of them, which is the core of self-belief, I think. You might have another version of self-belief. That's my version of self-belief.
Well,
you're waiting.
That's a good definition.
Look, I'm trying to find imposter syndrome. You're doing your job, whatever it might be. And you're waiting for the tap on the shoulder, like, what do you think you're doing? Why do you think you can do this? Why do you think you're any good? And it's a pig. It's an absolute pig. And you have to fight it. And my most successful friends get that. And I go, but look what you've done. Look what you've achieved. Look what you're doing now. And they go, yeah, I know, Russie, but we're waiting for that tap on the
But
shoulder.
do you remember? Do you remember? Maybe just before you came on, I said we've got a conscious and an unconscious mind.
Yeah.
So they can say. So they will probably say something like, "I know when I look at my CV, logically speaking, I'm very successful, but I don't feel that way," and that's due to, if you like, the conscious and unconscious not being in agreement. So actually, we will come on to this right now. If you want to do a deep dive on this one.
Well, I think it's really important because a lot of people are walking around, and there's the public face. I'm not talking about showbiz, which is a load of old nonsense and poo, as we know. I'm talking about you're walking around, and people perceive you in one way, and you see yourself completely differently. I do. I'm very honest about. I've always been honest on on the shows that I do on the radio since 1984. I've never done a fake persona. I just won't.
But wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if we could hear it live on air for
Oh
other people
God,
to watch?
nice. It would be. It's the biggest. It's the biggest issue, and it's the biggest issue I think for so many people.
Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to
okay.
type a definition. So if you want to keep talking for a bit, thank you. I'm very glad you're here. And,
I felt I was being an interloper, but I was sitting at my desk. I'm about to write a huge baby naming ceremony. Then I got a funeral to write. Then I got a wedding to write. So I'm slightly under the cosh. But I have to say, if you're having a bad day, while Neil's doing this, I just want to tell you something. As you know, I'm a celebrant as well. And we have a group of celebrants called the Celebrant Circle, and more of that. And Neil will be meeting them soon. He doesn't know that, but he will on the show because we've got lots to talk about. And if you think you're having a bad day, one of them, in fact, one of the ladies I trained with, has got 2 baby funerals to do.
2 what? Sorry,
baby funerals for a baby.
Oh.
So I'm saying this just to get things into perspective. You wake up, and you're ranting and raving, and you're really ranting and raving about bullshit. And I am the worst of that. I am the worst of picking on something which is just crap. Who cares, really? At least I don't have to attend or be involved with or be related to, or God forbid, the parents of a baby funeral. It's the job I'm dreading. 2 jobs it will happen. I will take them. But one is an infant death or a child death, and the other is suicide. It's our role. We have to be there. But put it into perspective. You're having a bad day because the plumber's a bit late or the vet's a bit late. It's nothing. It's nothing. That's kind of what I'm. That's what I'm saying. And
it does. It's so the internet's cutting out a bit, but we get the gist of that. Basically, what you're saying is, it puts that in perspective. It's all. There's a good visual you can use to embed that concept more deeply, and it's basically drawing a square. Let's say a grid, a 3x3 grid of squares. And in each grid, you put something that's working well in your life, apart from one. So 8 things that are working well, all right, and 1 that might need a bit of work. But then when you see it in contrast to everything that's working well, we tend to have a negativity bias, if you like. And that's where we spend an awful lot of time focused on what we don't want. The only problem with that is focusing on what you don't want makes you see more of it and get more of it. Because we tend to get more of what we focus on. But we have the power of focus, so it should be fairly simple to turn around and focus more on what we do want and therefore get more of that. That would make sense at one level, wouldn't it?
It would. But the trouble with all of this, and I'm not being negative about it because we've all worked in it a long time, is that you read the books and you go, yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, I'm going to bring that into my life. And then, boom, the first hump in the road. And it's like, the wheels fall off.
Because it triggers the deeper stuff that's in the unconscious. But that is an opportunity, isn't it? To bring it up, look at it for what it is, process it, and maybe let it go. That's what healing's about, right?
Yeah. But why does it lurks, doesn't it? It lurks like
it's generally a self-protection
unwelcome guest at a party who just won't piss off. That's basically it.
I would say it's more like it's a part of you that is trying to protect you.
I think it's trying to destroy you. I think it's trying to just beat you up constantly and drag you down.
Yeah, because it's not particularly enlightened, but it thinks by beating you up. I remember a certain manager that you and I both know that thought that by making people as awful as they could about themselves, it would improve their performance.
No, it just makes you feel awful about yourself. You
Exactly.
that.
So that wasn't.
You have to be real. You've got to be realistic. If somebody really doesn't have what it takes in their particular role, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be driving a forklift truck, it could be singing, it could be comedy, it could be, I don't know, acrobatics. If you haven't got it, it makes sense. You've got to say, I don't think this is quite right for you.
Well, you could acknowledge where people are at the moment. I mean, all skills are learnable. I've seen some people that in comedy that really weren't very funny at all to start with, and now they're headlining, and they are funny. So it's skills are learnable.
And then we've seen some people go in reverse, who were brilliantly funny, and now you think, you reach for the off switch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But basically, what is going on with imposter syndrome is, I believe, a conflict between the conscious and unconscious mind. It's a bit like saying, I know I shouldn't feel this way. I know my CV is brilliant, but I still do. So let's go.
I'm going to jump in for a second, because something that no one ever says, because we live in a supposed meritocracy, but we don't really. Plus, we are bombarded, and I ignore it. I do ignore it. The social media. Look at my life. It's fantastic. Look at me on holiday. Aren't I great? Here's a picture of my knees. What the hell? I don't want to see your stupid knees. What the hell's that about? Right? All that sort of stuff. When is it enough to say, do you know what? I'm a decent family person. I'm a mom, I'm a dad, or I'm a grandfather, or a grandmother. I got a loving family. That's enough.
When you decide that you are enough. When you decide and acknowledge that you are enough as you are. Because with these things that we're talking about and these categories, which I'll put on the screen briefly, it is something where, if you like, the universe doesn't play favorites on. Everyone has the potential to achieve this. We're all wired in the way that this is actually our natural state. We've deviated from it through possibly negative experiences that we've collected in life, negative memories and all that sort of thing, imposter syndrome, blah, 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 blah. But this is our natural state. So, and once you realize you're enough, that is enough. And then by all means, enjoy social media. By all means, go on a wonderful holiday and post it online. But what people do is they use that as fuel for their worthiness, which is a dangerous thing, because if that summer wasn't there, then neither are they anymore. So, but if they had a strong, but if they had a strong state of being in the first place,
you've touched on something really,
then things like that would sting a lot less, and we'd move through it a lot faster.
Go.
Bless. I've got some house guests at the moment, and she's creeping past very, very quietly. Thank you, Farida.
One of the big pitfalls.
You're cutting out.
Okay. We need to deal with what I guess means. One of the big bear traps that people fall in, a huge pitfall, is living their life through the approval of others. And I just say, screw that. I've never been interested in the approval
of
others.
It takes some realization.
Now, before you think, but it's not arrogance. What I want to say is this, is I kind of whip myself all the time. Is that the best I can do? Is that great? So what I say is, for example, there was a stand-up show I did at Crazy Cox, and place loved it. Place went wild. I walked off, wouldn't come on for an encore, because I thought I'd let myself down. The audience was, seriously, I'm not just saying it, they loved it. They thought it was hilarious. And I thought, no. And I went into the dressing room. It was just me, obviously. And I stared into the mirror, and I was furious at myself. So it's not the critic that I'm interested in. It's always me trying to improve. And I'm a very, very hard taskmaster on myself. Is that the best eulogy that I can do? Is that the best radio broadcasting that I can do? So
Let me ask you a pointed question.
Does that make any sense to anybody?
It does, but let me ask you a pointed question, Russ.
Yeah, inner critic.
If you had these inner states of self-belief, the ones we've all discussed, and you were generally happy with yourself and not critical on yourself, do you think that would improve your performance? Do you honestly think you get better out of yourself by beating yourself with a stick?
No, of course I don't. This is the awful thing. It's like watching yourself drown. That's why I kind of jumped on. I wasn't supposed to be here, but that's why I jumped on. I'll work tonight. It's okay. Because I just found it so interesting, the subjects that I didn't know you can do this, that you had brought up. And I think it's really, no, of course not. I know that we would all be better if we felt happy. You woke up and you felt happy.
And there's your conscious mind. I know we'd all feel better. Logically, that makes perfect sense to me. But your unconscious will kick in with that old habit, which was probably learnt somewhere. Julie Voice is in the Bowls Club car park in the sunshine,
waiting for her mum, who's 96.
I know, you've really got to watch that lifestyle.
I don't think her mum's a drug dealer. I don't think she plays bowls at all. I think she's a major dealer. I do. I think that's where she does. I think
we got some good.
I think it's a front.
We've got some good comments from Elizabeth Green today. I noticed everything I did was on top of not enough. Everything. So if you're doing loads of stuff to try and make up for not feeling enough, you'll never feel enough. And the point is, what you're trying to do is fix what's not broken or trying to fix the wrong thing.
Give an example, Elizabeth, in New York City. Give an example of what you mean. Just one. It doesn't have to be deeply personal. It could be anything. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the inner critic. And it slows us down and it hampers us and it is not constructive. Constructive criticism is fantastic. I have always loved it. I have welcomed it. I've listened to it and I've learned from it. You know?
I agree.
And you attach yourself to someone who does things better than you. And you sit and you listen and you learn. The stupid thing, I don't want to keep going on about the celibate thing. We'll talk about broadcasting in a second because that's another example. But when I did my training, some people in other courses, not in our class, I have to say, the group was just lovely. We've become friends. They're smashing people. But in other classes, somebody has walked in with these people don't know what they're talking about. I could do this. I'm better than them. I'm smarter than them. I can cut corners. No. If you want to learn and be the best at your craft in anything, you listen to the experts and then you grow from there. You can't walk in with I'm, Mr. Billy Big.
And it's worth pointing out that the people that mentor you love to mentor you because the people I mentor, I love to see them grow. I love to see them become more.
It's a thrill.
Two wonderful girls that I work with that I've taught to DJ, Chloe and Emily. Emily Dexter's actually presented on the show before now.
Emily Spinham Dex.
Spinham Dex and Chloe Norman. I mean, Chloe Norman, they're brilliant, but they've grown so much. But I have never taught them or anyone with this kind of, well, that was shit. You'll have to do better. Oh, your whole career depends on this. Well, if you don't do better, I mean, we've all heard that crap all of our lives. Surely there's got to be a better way. Shall we dive into what that better way is?
Yes, go ahead. I'm agog.
Okay. Elizabeth Green, you says because you weren't good enough. Yeah, but I would then say I'd apply a bit of NLP here and say compared to what?
Yeah, compared to what? Are you not good enough?
Or compared to who? And not good enough
Mother
for
Teresa,
who?
what?
Not good enough for who? And not good enough in everything? Are you good enough making a cup of tea? Are there some things that you're good enough at?
The other thing, Longie, is if you're surrounded by narcissists or people who are deeply toxic, and they keep spreading their poison to you, of course it becomes believable. It becomes believable. It's not believable.
Elizabeth, do I have your permission to put that comment before on screen? If I do, just type yes in the chat because I respect your privacy on that. I don't know if you're just telling me that for my own information.
Yes, that's well done. Well fielded, that one.
or whether it's
I would have
public.
been stupid and just put it straight on the screen.
But
Right,
yeah,
tell us
yes, I
how we
do.
can
Okay,
improve. Come on.
okay. I wanted to get married and have kids. Time was marching on. I married someone I wasn't in love with, and I
Ooh.
knew it.
Wow. That's not smart.
But you could say, you could apply more NLP here and go, okay, well, that was an experience. There's no failure. It's just feedback. Now I know what I don't want. What do I want? And that gives you clarity, which is the second thing after self-belief, if you remember, which we were talking about earlier.
Heavy price to pay.
It is a heavy price to pay,
Yeah,
and you
because
don't
there's
have to
kids
go
involved.
through hell to get to heaven. So shall we dive
Right.
into the shortcuts?
Yeah, come on, bring it on.
All right. So first category, I was going to read some. First of all, he talks about perceived boundaries. Because how do we know that we have any boundaries at all? I mean, let's just think of it from this point of view. Science has proved everything, including us, is made of energy, molecules. You agree with that? Molecules?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, completely.
Okay,
Sure.
what's behind molecules? Energy. Resonating, vibrating. Even that bloody fly is made of energy.
It's
Resonating
all energy.
energy. Okay, so we're agreed on that. So does energy have any limits?
If only Brian Cox was here, we could ask him. I have no idea.
Well, probably a physicist, but actually nowadays, metaphysicists or spiritual people, not religion, spirituality, would probably tell you that energy is, oh, wow, it's a wasp. First one I've seen all year. Would tell you that energy has no limits.
That's probably true.
Okay, so then what makes me think we do?
Because we don't walk around realizing that we are. I'm not doing the hippy dippy nonsense from the 60s. We are Stardust. We are literally made from the start. That's
Actually,
it. It's science.
That's not hippy dippy. That's science. We are
no,
made
that
of
is actual science.
We are made of the same stuff as the universe. Now, the thing is,
we are. Yeah.
The problem is, we all think we're separate from it. We all think we're separate from nature rather than a part of nature. That's why the planet's in such a mess. We're trying to dominate and control the planet to keep ourselves safe. It's a very unenlightened way
no. We're trying to dominate the planet. It's all about money. It's never been about.
And what do we want the money for?
I don't know. What do we want the money for? I don't know.
What feeling would the money give you? Let's just go in the mindset of these people.
All right.
If they had 20 zillion pounds, what would that give them?
No. Drill down a little bit here, right? Like our guest.
What would that give them?
Hang on. Our guest on Monday, Nicholas Daines, right? And he was talking about the rainforest and all that sort of stuff. If you're earning like tuppence a year and somebody says, well, chop down these trees, you don't care about the trees. We're sitting in Europe and we care about the trees. The people there couldn't care less. They need the money. They're broke. So why are they doing it? Some would say greed. Some would say desperation. Some would say ignorance. Some of them just couldn't give a monkeys. Chop down the forest and build whatever they're going to build.
So
of course, it's terrible.
To try and survive and stay safe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So it's safety. So it's security.
Well, all right, okay.
And it's
but then it goes up the food chain. Then it goes up the food chain to the multinationals who are doing this with, I don't know, palm oil or whatever the particular cause is this week. I get it. It's all about money, which is, of course, why the planet's screwed.
Shall we dive in?
Yes, of course.
Okay. I keep diving in and you keep jumping in.
Well, I'm jumping in because I'm excited by the topics.
And you're very welcome to jump in. But if we don't do any diving, there'll be a lot of...
Yeah, all right, I'm going to shut up. I should be Lloyd Bridges. Anyone remember that? Sea Hunt. Anyone?
So we pop this on the screen. A self-belief is a state where you have confidence in your own abilities and judgment. Once you've harnessed it, you can do way more than you previously imagined. So says Paul McKenna. The point is if you think you can't do something, you won't do something.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
These obstacles can take, here we go, here's the key, the form of internal conflict or self-sabotage. We've discussed self-sabotage already. That's inner critic. That's imposter syndrome. Yeah. Or internal conflict is kind of, I'd like to do that, but this is more important. I've got these responsibilities, but I'd like to do that. That's kind of...
Sometimes but the trouble is life gets in the way. Sometimes that's true, isn't it?
But does it always have to? Is it
not
possible?
Always. I mean,
is it possible that you could have the best of both? That's what I'm putting forward, this idea.
Well, a
Could you balance it
compromise.
and have the best of both?
Is balance the same word as compromise? I'm
No,
not a great compromise. I got to be honest.
no,
No.
compromising implies that, well, yeah, I don't really want this, but a little bit of it's better than nothing. But what about if
Yeah.
in one way or another you can have it all?
Who doesn't want it all? We all want it all, man. Everybody wants
All
it
right.
all.
So would
In
you
a
like to
nice
know?
way.
Would you like to know how? Let's take a step
Yes,
towards it.
of course. I'd love to
Okay.
know how.
Right. This is getting rather pantomime-like, isn't it? Limiting thoughts, so says Paul McKenna, are often the constructs of our own mind, and what's behind it is almost always an unconscious pattern of protection. Want to hear a crazy example? One of my clients, says Paul McKenna, experienced an extreme example of this, and this is right at the extreme end, but it makes a good point. As a child, he told his mother, when I grow up, I want to be successful. And she said, you don't want to do that, my son. Successful people have heart attacks.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that throwaway remark became implanted in his unconscious mind like a hypnotic suggestion almost, said by an authority figure at an impressionable age. That's the criteria. And then whenever he get older, every time he was on the brink of success, he botched things up. The unconscious mind isn't logical, it's purposeful. Its intention is always positive. In this case, it was trying to stop him dying. But it doesn't have the logic of the conscious mind, and it's dealt with in a different way to the conscious mind.
Don't be successful, you'll have a heart attack. Wow. Christ.
It's a bit like the phrase, give me a child until he's 7 and I'll show you the man. It's also known as childhood conditioning.
Yeah, horrible. I've always hated that.
And the conditioning we experience from our youth and beyond sort of floats around in our deeper mind, our unconscious mind, a bit like a sea of thoughts. So, for example, you get hurt in a relationship, you might go on and sabotage the next one, that kind of thing. Because deep down, as Paul McKenna gives his example, in that case, he didn't want to feel out of control. So if I can just control this enough, I'll save the relationship. But anyone that tries to control things to that degree is more likely to lose a relationship. Because we've all been with control freaks and they're not a lot of fun, right?
Sure. But also,
so in other words,
taking your relationship example, just for a sec, if you've always had bad experiences, some people think, well, if I wreck this, I won't have to learn whether it's going to work out or not because it's wrecked. And they're subconsciously
that's a kind of a preemptive strike. That's I know I'm going to be disappointed, so I might as well get it out of the way and do it on my terms. But what if? But again, that's not a very enlightened way of going about it. What if there's a better way? Would you like to hear it?
Yeah.
All right. So we do a little exercise in a moment. I'll just do the preamble, which won't take much longer. Then we do an exercise. It's called the visual squash, and it was developed by NLP. Visual squash, yes. Developed by NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming's co-founder, Dr. Richard Bandler, who is a bad boy genius. All right. So, shall we do this exercise? Would everyone like to do it?
Yeah, come on, gang. All over the world.
All over the world. Let's just take a moment and all do this exercise together. And by the way, doing things in group, doing things where we all know we're watching at once, actually gives us a serotonin boost. So if you start to feel kind of happy and a bit more connected and all these nice feelings after doing this, that's why. It's stimulating your brain chemistry in a really positive way. My producer, Mr. E, has just walked in. So first of all, what we want to do is put your hands out in front of you, palms facing up like that.
Okay, I'm playing along.
Okay. Which is your left hand's your dominant hand, isn't it, Russ?
Yeah, I'm left-handed. Yeah.
Okay. So in your dominant hand, put like a visual of the part of you that wants to succeed and fulfill your potential. Yes, there's self-sabotage there, but there is a part at least that wants to be successful. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done all the things you've done in your life.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah? You'd have never done Capital. You'd never be a celebrant. You'd never open this radio station. You'd never do stand-up comedy. You just wouldn't. So there's obviously a driving part of you that wants to succeed, okay?
Yeah.
Right. Now,
sure.
In the other hand, this is my dominant hand, all right. In the other hand, put the part that stops you. Give that a visual.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so you've now got both, and you're now looking at them from a distance, so being a little bit more objective about it. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to put these two parts together like that.
Oh,
So bring your hands together.
Okay.
They're not in competition with each other. Remember, both have positive intentions. One wants you to succeed. The other one wants to protect you, which is not that different, really. So there is a compromise. There is a click. There is somewhere between the two, that sweet spot where they coexist.
All right.
And you're okay with both of them.
Okay. All right.
Because we don't want to start getting rid of these parts. They all need a seat at the table. There are some contexts where the part that wants to protect you could be really useful.
Yeah.
Don't walk down that alleyway.
Can put your hand in boiling water.
There's some contexts in life where it's not useful.
All
Don't
right.
go for your dream.
That's true.
But it has a positive intention. Don't go for your dream, otherwise you'll be disappointed. But that's very different from don't walk down the alleyway because you might get attacked, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So let's just keep your hands together for a moment, everybody. All right.
I'm doing it.
So at any point, you start to feel a bit of a click, a bit of a connection between the two. Like they're not scrapping anymore. They're now friends and working together. You could call it an inner democracy, if you like.
Ooh, okay.
And when you start to feel a click, put it to your chest, put it in your heart. And then just imagine how much easier and better your life will be now you've got all these key parts of you on side. And there's no longer an eternal battle. Everything's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So the protector's there when needed, and the cheerleader is there when needed. And that's the
Very
first exercise.
These physical things that Neil is demonstrating, and I've not seen that before, by the way. I'm playing along like everybody else all over the world, right? Because I don't know what's happening here. Don't know what's coming next, which is great. But these physical things are very, very powerful. Very, very powerful indeed. You know, I do my podcast every week with Mark Collin, Walk the Talk, The Hero's Journey. But I also talk to him off every 2 weeks about other stuff privately. And there's physical stuff that we do that is fascinating and incredibly powerful, I thought.
Well, I showed you that one. Another one for the inner critic.
Yeah,
I've shown you this one before.
Yeah, I use that a lot.
Is put your thumb out in front of you and imagine your inner critic has shrunk down really tiny and small, has got a really squeaky voice or
Joe
a voice
Pasquale.
you wouldn't take seriously. I don't know, Donald Trump, something like that. Any voice.
No,
that
Joe Pasquale. I always think it's Joe Pasquale.
I've actually used Joe Pasquale with a client before. I have.
Yeah, he's got such a funny, and that is his voice. It's like, you know,
I know it is, and he's a very funny man, but he's also very useful for NLP as well.
Very.
So you put your thumb out in front of you. You have your little tiny squeaky one on top of the thumb, but look at what you're doing here. It's not inside of you anymore. It's outside of you, and you are looking at it from a distance. Okay. And it's also very, very small. Now, how seriously would you take that? You just flick it away like an annoying fly or that wasp that was in here a minute ago. Right, exactly. Boom. Gone.
And because of you, Neil Longie Long, I used that on a friend. I was meeting a friend last week, talking about stuff, because I don't do chit-chat. I'm really not very good at chit-chat. And and he was saying certain things. I said, well, try this. And I did your exercise. Your exercise, the one you
did it work?
Well, he got the point. Whether it's going to work or not, time will tell. But he got the point of externalizing this inner bullshit, making it look as stupid as it really is, and as tiny and as ineffectual as it really is. Except we allow it, we grant it permission, which it shouldn't have.
Now, here's an interesting one for everyone. There's another NLP pattern, which is called this.
I like the last one. Yeah. Swish.
So go back to the last exercise with the parts that are now integrated. Now make that into a nice picture, okay? That you could maybe hold in both hands. Okay, step into the picture and see it through your own eyes if you can. See yourself succeeding. Hear the sounds clearly. What does your most confident self look like? The one that can go into situations, good and bad, and just kind of surf them and create success in their lives and be happy along the way. Just the kind of human being that we all aspire to be, I suppose. In control. So we've got a nice picture there.
Yeah, got it.
You got it? Got it quickly?
Yeah,
Good.
got it.
Okay, so what I want you to do now is shrink it down to really, really small. All right. And I want you to put it in front of you, sort of beyond where your thumb was. Okay, so it's over there. Just leave it over there for a second, okay? So you've got your thumb up and the picture is beyond it. The picture's here, all right? Okay. Now on that thumb is that squeaky, nasty voice.
Yeah.
But on the count of 3, what I want you to do very quickly is move that lovely picture that you made very fast. That's why it's called swish. Swish. Swish it back. Shatter that little horrible gremlin on top of your thumb. And as it shatters that, and then you kind of embody all of that wonderful picture at once and step into it and do it fast. You try that? You ready?
Okay. Oh.
1, 2, 3. Swish. Swap them. So he's shattered, and that big picture has shattered him, and you are now in that big picture. You are that big picture. Do it again. 1, 2, 3.
Hang on. It's too quick. I've shattered him. I've got to reconfigure him now.
You don't have to put it back together if you don't want to.
Well, I don't.
Leave it shattered by all means.
No, screw him. That's what I say. All right.
So that's swish.
Interesting. If you're trying this, not while you're driving, for God's sake, but if you're trying this, I'd love to know if you're feeling stuff. If you feel stuff inside.
Right, got some great comments from Elizabeth here. This is obviously speaking to her. And by the way, I've spoken on the show an awful lot about the Derren Brown show, Miracle.
Yeah.
On Netflix. It's where he pretends to be a Christian evangelistic faith healer, but everyone knows he's a fake, all right? And even as a known fake, he still pretends and gets healing, medically documentable results, okay? And if you watch, you'll see a swish pattern in there. When he does the preamble for it, and they do it on big screens, very big, very visual, because most people are visual, and you'll see it if you watch Miracle. You'll see and swap the pictures. You'll see that, and then you'll know what it is. That's called a swish pattern. So if you watch it on Netflix, Miracle, Derren Brown, you will see a swish pattern in there, a big swish pattern, and it's that swish pattern that got the results.
Yeah. Not
some bloke on a cloud sending down healing fairy dust. But that was the whole point of the show. He said it's called Miracle, and his whole point was, we're the bloody miracle. That's the point.
It's the thing that guides me.
You don't need anyone's permission to do this. You don't have to supplicate to some deity to access this. It's already given. We've already been given all we need. We are enough.
If religion gives you comfort, and I always say this because otherwise I think it's very rude. If religion gives you comfort, then fine. Then that is how you get through life, and that's absolutely fine. If you have belief, that is fine. But to add to Neil's point, the thing that has always struck me, I've mentioned it many times, a lecture many years ago at the Royal Geographical Society, amazing building in London, and by Deepak Chopra, who talked for over 2 hours without a single note in front of him. But I was like in awe of
He's the rock star of spirituality.
It was extraordinary, because I thought I was dragged along, and I thought, this is going to be bollocks, and it was absolutely brilliant. So there you go. And what he said is the biggest pharmaceutical is our mind, the way that it releases. If you allow it, it releases all these. This isn't woo-woo nonsense. This is proper biology and science. It releases the stuff that you need. So your negative thoughts mess you up, and your positive thoughts, boom. And if you don't
it's
believe,
also proven as well that one positive thought is stronger than 100 negative thoughts. You only need one.
You do. How often, Neil, have you been having a pretty rough day, and then one little tiny thing, it doesn't matter what it is, something happens, and you go, boom, you feel like a different person. Wonderful. See,
and that's how easy it can. And that's how easy it can be. Elizabeth has put in some lovely comments here. My favorite quote is, once we give up control, the universe will work how it should. Yeah, we're not general managers of the universe, and the good news is we don't need to be. I struggle with that. I hear what she's saying. I struggle with it.
I struggle with that. Because that, to me, if I then extend those thoughts, it's like, oh, what will be, will be. Whatever. It's all preordained. It doesn't matter what I do. If I turn left,
No,
if I turn right.
no, no, no,
I
no,
don't get
no,
that
no,
at all.
no. That doesn't necessarily infer preordination.
No. Okay.
No, not at all. It's not preordained. It depends on the choices that you make.
There you
If
go.
you choose to do that swish pattern and change how you feel, the outcome of your day will be different than had you made the choice not to do that swish pattern and think that Neil's talking shit.
No, but that
If you
doesn't. I
choose to
don't
make a
understand
cup
how
of
that
tea,
means.
if you choose to make a cup of tea or go and drink, I don't know, washing up liquid, the outcomes will be completely different. Neither of those are preordained. It's your choice.
So
I
how
recommend
does
the tea.
that? So link that. Walk me through this, Longie. How does that mean if you give up control, the universe will work? Because the universe isn't going to say to you, "I wouldn't drink the fairy liquid. I'd have the tea if I were you." Because it's your choice. So I'm. This is where I get lost. This is where I found it very murky waters.
Okay. Notice the universe doesn't work on control. The universe works on flows of energy. Okay. The grass isn't controlled to grow. The seasons aren't controlled. It unfolds organically. I think that's what Elizabeth means. Okay.
All right. I'll go with that.
All the natural phenomena, all the processes unfold organically as they're supposed to. And we can have a part in that by the choices that we make. And it's a lot easier if you're not battling against things. And if you're trying to control things, then you're battling. But notice nature, and we're part of nature, not apart from it, doesn't battle. The grass doesn't battle to grow. The stars don't battle to come out at night. They just are. So it's you can say your isness is your business, if you like. What are you being? A state of self-belief or a state of I've got to control everything to make it work? Which is going to feel better? It's up to you which you choose.
Ask Klaus Schwab.
Zen quote, just sitting and the grass grows all by itself. Yeah, the only caveat with that, Elizabeth, I think Russ touched on it. It's like, it doesn't mean do nothing, but it's doing the right amount of action. It's the right amount of action for what you want to achieve. It doesn't have to be struggle.
So, with my dad, my late dad.
Because remember, the opposite of ease is dis-ease.
Yeah. My dad died 24 years ago, right? Long time. Feels like yesterday, but long time. And he always say to me, I think everything's planned out. Well, kind of watching him go blind and die of cancer wasn't much of a plan. If you don't mind me saying, I didn't think that was much of a plan at all. I thought it sucked. It was horrible. No. So I don't kind of get all that. I don't like it. It's all, because then it gets wound up within about 2 sentences. Well, it's God's plan. This is what God's got in store for you. I don't like that. Whatever.
Yeah, but that
it's
makes
never great.
you. But that makes you no. But also that's two things there. Number one, that implies that to access God or source, whatever, you have to suffer, which isn't necessarily.
Yeah, I've never embraced that theology.
No, and nor should you. Some people do suffer, and that could be momentum to not suffer anymore and turn their life around. Let's say someone that's addicted to drugs or something like that. Yeah, that's different. Absolutely. But you don't have to go to hell to get to heaven. Okay, there's no.
No, I don't understand that. I can't
you don't have to have an awful experience to decide how good you want life to be.
No.
You don't have to know life at its worst to want to benefit and want to experience life at its best. Is that better?
It gives you an appreciation. You can appreciate. You can appreciate stuff.
What we're saying, and no preordination. No, that's a way of people. That's quite disempowering.
I think they just mean they've given up.
Choice. If it's all preordained, what's the point of doing
anything?
What's
the point? Might as well stay in bed.
You might as well. But the fact that you can make choices and different choices have different outcomes, and there's no failure, only feedback, and that's how you learn.
It's like I'm not going to look before I cross the road because it's preordained. So I'm either going to get across the road and not get hit by an ice cream truck.
And that's the other problem with preordination. And that's the other problem with preordination. There's no responsibility taken on your own part. It's all preordained. So I walk out in the road. If I get hit by a car, it was all preordained anyway. No, it's not like that.
It's because you're
still responsible for our lives.
Okay. So it's a balance. I find it terribly complicated. I'll be quite honest with you, because most of the stuff we do, it's kind of common sense. Are words we never hear together in one sentence anymore in 2024, common sense. But it's like, all right, you don't want to fight nature. Kind of get that. But we have to be in a sort of control, because otherwise you're going to get run over by a truck. But we don't want to be in too much control. This is where I'll be honest, I get lost.
Okay,
I wish
we
I could
don't
sit
wanna
here
be-
like some genius and
No.
how it is. I don't get it.
I'll be really honest. I've had trouble with this as well. This is why I talk about it a lot. They say teach what you're trying to learn. Right, let's go back to one extreme. No control at all.
Yep.
So preordained. So might as well just stay in bed or get hit by a truck. It's all preordained. No.
Yeah, makes a difference.
But the other end of that is trying to control everything, which is impossible. There's too many moving parts.
Yeah.
So it's somewhere between the two. It's somewhere between, rather like you already do. You take it seriously enough to do your best. You go out there, you do your best with what you can control and let go of what you can't.
Yeah. That's right. I suppose if I did a silly example, if I'm conducting a funeral, and I know that I've prepared and I'm doing my best as a celebrant to conduct the whole funeral, and somebody in the one of the guests is terribly emotionally upset and is sobbing loudly or whatever, but there's nothing I can do about that. I can't control. I suppose that's a silly example, but in other words, I can walk out of the chapel or crematorium or whatever going, well, I did my best, but I can't beat myself up that somebody got terribly upset because they've lost.
And who said it was your responsibility for what other people do?
Well, the thing is, when you are notionally in charge of an entire event, which you are, I don't think people quite understand that. There's no funeral. They go, once we've all bowed, they go, you're in charge. It's your show.
Yeah.
So
but are you in charge of other people's emotions?
No, you're in charge of making
when you do stand-up comedy, you can go and do your best, but are you in charge of whether they laugh or not?
That is slightly different, and I'll answer that. It's an excellent question. I will answer that question this way. If they're not laughing, you can draw the conclusion, I'm rubbish, the material isn't good enough. Or you can draw the conclusion, they're an arse, they're in a shitty mood, they've had a row with their wife, husband, partner, whatever it might be. Well, that's not my fault.
And actually, both might be a bit true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
if the material was shit, okay, take the feedback, work on the material. There's the feedback.
Correct.
And that's your responsibility.
Correct.
But only you can't force them to laugh. If it's not your fault, they've had a really shitty day. You went in there, you did your best. Don't let your own emotional state and certainly not your value to yourself and other people be affected by one event.
But if you're an entertainer, I'm not saying I am. What I mean is, all right, let's take it away from personal stuff. Let's say you are, pick somebody you like, Michael McIntyre. It doesn't matter whether you like him or don't. Michael McIntyre, who's sold out the O2. Yes, he has a responsibility to entertain the 10, 12, 15,000 people who have rocked up to the O2 at great expense to see him. That's a responsibility. So when you say, oh, are you responsible? The answer is yes.
Yeah, he's responsible for his part in that. He's responsible for his actions. He's responsible for, he's made the agreement. He's going to write the show. He's going to perform it to the best of his ability. But if he says a joke and it triggers someone and they start crying, is that his responsibility?
Oh, because it reminds them of something tragic? No.
Or is it his responsibility if someone, I don't know, has a car accident on the way and smashes up their fender? Well, they were coming to see him. He's responsible for that. No,
of course it's not. No. What I'm saying is there are certain limits within which you could be seen as being responsible. Do you see what I'm saying? Your responsibility, if you were a comedian, let's say, is to entertain those people. My responsibility when I'm not doing stand-up, as a celebrant, my responsibility is to make sure that service, baby, whatever it is, the three that I've got coming up is the full circle of life. Baby, wedding and a funeral. right? So it's a film. My responsibility is to do the best to make sure that it goes as well as it can.
But can you control the people in the audience, or can you be responsible to do your best? That's the difference.
I can't control their emotions, but
Exactly.
I can create an environment where they feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Where they feel comfortable. You see
Yeah,
what I'm
and you can
saying?
do your best, but again, you can't force someone to feel comfortable. You can only
No, no,
do
no,
your best.
no, 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 no. After a certain point, you're absolutely right, Longie. You're absolutely right. After a certain point, you go, well, that's not my problem. And a lot of life, with the greatest of respect, and I know this is completely what people are not supposed to say, you are allowed to say, do you know what? Not my circus, not my monkeys. It's not my problem. That's okay. It's okay. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to get
Yeah,
lightning, struck
it's
down by
more than
lightning.
okay. I think a lot of times, if people would just get out of each other's way and stop interfering, life would be a lot easier. But there
Of
you
course
go.
it will. Of course it will.
We're out of time. That been
Wowza,
quick. Thank
wowza,
you for
bowser,
jumping in. I've
cowser.
really enjoyed the show today.
It's Do you know why? I think because several reasons. One, you're a bloody good broadcaster. Two, you're fanatically passionate about what you do. Three, we both happen to have grown up with Paul McKenna, so we see the arc of his journey, the arc of his success, and we see that it's possible. And just in that moment, I want to say something, because I think this is so important to how you lead. I don't mean your life. One leads one life. We all started off with Paul before he was famous. All right, he was on a local radio station, and we met him. We know we grew up with
Yeah,
him.
Radio Jackie. I said that before
Radio,
you came
yeah,
on.
right. There's two ways that people dice and slice this. One is the way that Neil and I are. Look at it. Look what he's done. Isn't that fantastic? I think it's inspirational. I do. Multi squillionaire, huge formed a huge corporation out of using his noggin. Fabulous. And other people, the naysayers, would go, huh, and would diss him. It says more about you than it does about Paul.
Yes, the people that mind don't matter, and the people that matter don't mind.
Yes, that's right. I think we should always, if you're a decent person, you embrace the success of your friends and your loved ones. If you're a decent
Indeed.
person. Speaking of lack of success, I'll be back on Friday.
That was
Me
terrible.
and Chantal. It was rubbish, but I just know how to burst that balloon when I think it gets too pompous. Anyway, it's your show. You sign off. I'm saying nothing now.
Okay. Russ will be back with Screen Queen, Chantal, on Friday. I will be back on Monday, and I will be back next Wednesday. And don't forget, watch Miracle, Darren Brown, and watch for the swish pattern that we did earlier. You'll see it in the second half of the Netflix show, Darren Brown Miracle, and you'll go, I know what you're doing there. And when you see the power he has on that audience with this simple mental pattern, maybe you'll use it a bit more for yourself.
Neil, you're a web's wonder. Until then, bye-bye.
Good afternoon. Oh, he's disappeared. Bye then. Russ, will see you on Friday. I'll see you on Monday. Take care.